Hello folks, my name is Steven. Welcome to my channel Trading Chain. Today we have come to the moment of investing into stocks for the long term for beginners. We're going to be looking at what information to pay attention to, what platforms to be researching on, and what tools to be using and ignoring. But you don't know which stock or stocks to invest in, where to find them, and what to start with because you're a complete beginner. You don't have to worry, I will be covering this. There are a lot of resources on the internet that you can use to research stocks, but I personally use Yahoo Finance and Finviz because they have enough information and tools for me to do my research. I will be talking about Yahoo Finance in this video and Finviz in the next video. I want you to get familiar with these two platforms. On Yahoo Finance and Finviz, there is a version that is free and a version that you have to pay for. I will be talking about the free version because before you start making money, you don't need to pay for extra tools that beginners don't need. So now, let's get on the computer. Hello, so now that we're on the computer, you need to open up Yahoo Finance. You write finance.yahoo.com in your browser to open up to the main page. The reason why we're talking about Yahoo Finance is because it is a totally free resource, even though there's a version that you can pay for. But as a beginner, you don't need to get into that because you don't need to pay for information that you don't need and that you don't understand. But on the main page, you'll see that there are all of the world's latest news right here. So now you need to open up a company. You go to this bar right here, and you can either write the full name of the company or you type in the company's ticker. The ticker is the shortened name of a company. I'm going to be using Microsoft, and its ticker is MSFT. So now we're on Microsoft's main page. By the way, if you have a Windows or a MacBook computer, then you might see that the information might be in different places. But you don't need to really pay attention to that because all of the information is the same. But when you open up to Microsoft's main page on Yahoo Finance, you'll see that there are two prices right here and right here. This price indicates what price Microsoft closed at today, and you can see how much Microsoft has won or lost in dollars and percentage. This would be green if Microsoft has won. And because it's the weekends, this price shows what price Microsoft closed at on Friday. Now this price right here shows the after hours price. The after hours are the hours after the close, which is 4 p.m., and the weekends also count as after hours. And you can see Microsoft's current price and how much Microsoft has won or lost in dollars and percentage. As a beginner, you only need to pay attention to this price right here. You can also see that you can change the time interval, the regular time, for this chart right here. You can change it 1 day, 5 days, 3 months, 6 months, YTD, or year to date. YTD just shows you the day that Microsoft opened at this year, all the way up to today's date. 1 year, 5 years, and all. The all chart shows information over a very long period of time. You can also change the different type of chart, which is a line, a candle, a baseline, mountain, and bar. I only use line and candle because they're very simple for me to understand, and I recommend you to use them too. Now, to get a full screen chart instead of just this one, you can either go to charts, then click full screen, or, which is a shorter way, you can just click on advanced chart right here. But when you get on the chart, you'll see that there is also one more function with the time interval. Because I have this on 1 minute, that means that each candle is representing 1 minute of time. If I put this to 30 minutes, then that means that each candle is representing 30 minutes of time instead of one. Now to exit, we just click this arrow right here. And we will see that there is a bunch of information right here. The previous close shows what price Microsoft closed at yesterday. Open shows what price Microsoft opened at today. The bid and the ask for investors, they look at it as one because the ask represents what price the sellers wanted to sell Microsoft at, but the bid is what price they actually sold it at. In market times, you will see that the bid will constantly be moving. And when you see times 1000 times 900, these numbers can be different, but it just represents the share amount. Now, the days range shows Microsoft's range today from the lowest to the highest price. The 52-week range is the same thing, only it shows information over 52 weeks. The volume, you need to pay attention to this because if you see that the volume is close to zero, like around 200,000 or less, then when investing, you might get trapped in the company. And what I mean by this, that even if you bought the company and it went up and you're in a nice profit, you might not be able to sell that company at all because of the low liquidity. But if you see that the volume is like around 21 million, then that means that this company is very liquid. The average volume is the average volatility of Microsoft, and the volume and the average volume show today's volume. The market cap intraday is just a fancy word for the daily time frame, which I have on right here. And it just shows what the market valued Microsoft at today. And because this is around $3 trillion, if this was a B, then this would be billion, million, and K thousand. The higher the market cap, the better. The beta, you don't need to pay attention to this at all as a beginner, but it just simply represents the average volatility of each candle. The PE ratio shows if the company is overvalued or undervalued. You can calculate the PE ratio by dividing Microsoft share price right here by the EPS right here, and you'll get the PE ratio. If the PE ratio is over 20, then the company is overvalued, and that isn't so good. If the PE ratio is under 20 but over 7, then it's moderately undervalued, and that is better. But you have to understand that the numbers that I'm giving you aren't going to be perfect. So a company might be at a PE ratio of 6 or even 5, and it'll still be counted as a properly undervalued stock. So just keep that in mind. The EPS, earnings per share, shows you how much Microsoft makes earnings, so how much money per share, and the higher the EPS, the better. And the earnings date to show you when the earnings are supposed to happen. and the earnings come out every quarter of the year. The forward dividend yield shows you how much Microsoft pays in dividends, which is $3, and you don't need to pay attention to the percentage amount. Ex dividend date shows you when you have or had to be in the market so you will get paid dividends. The 1 year target estimate, you don't need to pay attention to this at all because this price always changes. But the 1 year target estimate to show you what analysts are guessing that Microsoft will be at and what they predict Microsoft will be at the end of this year. And this price is constantly changing every single day, so you can't really set a firm price. Now, when you scroll a little bit lower, you'll see this bar right here. If you click on it, it will just tell you a little information about Microsoft. You can see how many employees, full-time employees there are, the sector and the industry, and its website. And if you want to read more about Microsoft, click more about Microsoft Corporation right here. Or you can just click on profile. So now you can see a lot more information on Microsoft. You can see its address, the sector, the industry, the full-time employees, Microsoft's website, all the people that lead Microsoft, the corporate governance, the description. You should pay attention to the description because it tells you a lot about Microsoft. The upcoming events and the recent events are right below the description. So you can see all of this and you can even click show all events. So you'll see all of Microsoft's recent events. So now I'm going to tell you what as a beginner to pay attention to, which is the volume, how high it is, the higher the better, the market cap, the dividend yield, how much, if the company even pays in dividends. Actually, I'm going to give you an example with the company, which is small time, that does not pay dividends and how it look. This is going to be Funware Incorporation, or PHUN. It only costs 29 cents a share. And for the PE ratio, the forward dividend yield, you will see that will be two dashes, and that represents that, for example, the PE ratio, that just represents that it's not been calculated yet, or that that the share price is too small, and the forward dividend yield, that it doesn't pay dividends at all. So now that we go back to Microsoft, another very important thing to pay attention to, which is probably the most important, are the news, which you can find down the bottom, and the holders. You could just click this bar right here that you can find on the left side of the page. You'll see the percentage of shares held by all insiders, the percent of shares held by all institutions, and the number of institutions holding shares. You don't need to pay attention to the third bar right here, but you can see that around from 6 to 7,000 institutions are actually holding shares. You can see the top institutional holders and the top mutual fund holders. You don't really need to pay attention to the mutual fund holders and more to the institutional holders. For example, if you see Vanguard Group Incorporation, BlackRock, State Street, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Capital World Investors, Charles Schwab, and Bank of America, even though the Bank of America and Charles Schwab are not holding Microsoft right now, doesn't mean that this company is like, no, it's a bad company, because you can see how many shares that these institutions are the top institutions are holding. How many? Like, for example, Vanguard holds around 664 million shares, and the value, which is how much money Vanguard invested into Microsoft, you can see that it's around $268 billion. And I'm going to give you a few examples so you can just look, so you can understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to be using BlackRock for this one. BLK is its ticker. BlackRock costs $794 a share. Its volume, it's not great, but at least it's not under 200,000. And as I said a little earlier in the video, my numbers are not going to be typical and they're not going to be exact. So with some companies, if the volume is under 500,000, then that means that you might get trapped in the company still. It's always different on the different financial company. So you can see that the volume is around 393,000. The market cap is very high, which is around $117 billion. And BlackRock does pay dividends, which is $20 a share. And its holders are Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Capital World, Charles Schwab. And a fun fact is that Bank of America is actually America's largest bank yet. And a little secret is that if you see that BlackRock is holding it, or any of these institutions are holding shares, and if you see that it's a lot of value, like $10 billion, $7 billion, $4 billion, then that means that this company has a very unlikely chance of going bankrupt very quickly, and that this company is very stable and safe. And BlackRock would never invest into a company if it predicted a loss in the future, because BlackRock does not want to lose money. And I'm going to give you another example with Walmart, which is WMT at its ticker, and that you will see that share price is around $170 a share. It does have a high volume, which is around 6 million. The market cap is very high, which is around $458 billion, and does pay dividends, which is $2.28 a share. And you do not need to pay attention to the percentage amount. And Walmart's holders are also Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase and Company. And you can see that they do hold a lot of shares and a lot of value, a lot of money. So now you have learned some of the basic information about Yahoo Finance. If you couldn't keep up with something that I was talking about, please rewind and rewatch that part of the video, because in the future you will be using Yahoo Finance and this information every day for trading and investing. As I said, this is a totally free resource and supplies plenty of information that are perfect for beginners to use and practice on. You can't properly do the research without Yahoo Finance, because it supplies all of this information right here. Today, you have been familiarized with basic information on Yahoo Finance. If you didn't understand any of the information or tools I was talking about, please write down in the comments below so I can make a separate video about this. I will be giving you homework because you need to practice about what I showed you on the computer so you will be confident with this platform. Well, that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching.